I've come on the most urgent of business. It is said that the people are revolting.
You said it. They stink on ice.
No, Your Majesty, this is a very serious problem. The peasants feel you have no regard for them.
What? I have no regard for the peasants. They are my people. I am their sovereign. I love them. Pull! Drifting to the left.
Oh, my God. Mel Brooks as King Louis XVI in his satire, History of the World Part 1, expressing his disdain for his subjects during the French Revolution. There's a connection here, believe it or not, with our next guest. Joining us now, Chief National Correspondent for the New York Times Magazine, Mark Leibovich. He is here with his latest piece entitled, Trump has called his supporters disgusting. Do they care? Also with us, former senior advisor for the House Oversight Committee, Kurt Bardella. He is senior advisor to the Lincoln Project. And Axios political reporter and MSNBC contributor, Alexi McCammon, joins us. Great to have you all on board. So, Mark, do they care?
Apparently not. I mean, it's been a very durable support network for Donald Trump. I mean, his unshakable base, right? But if you do look over time, there have been some cracks here. I mean, I think the base does, if you look around the edges, seems to be shrinking a little bit. And also, if you listen to focus groups of people who voted for Donald Trump in 2016, there is quite a bit of anecdotal, at least, evidence that his act is wearing pretty thin. You hear some saying that they're not going to vote for him again. And I think that that's part of what his larger electoral challenge is right now, which is that his base is maybe not as durable as we thought it was. But one of the things I did with the story was try to accumulate a lot of the times over the last few weeks and months and also years that he has said the quiet part out loud about how he really feels about the people whose adoration he is bathing in at his rallies. And, look, as Howard Stern said, these are not the kinds of people who he would want in Mar-a-Lago. So, look, there's a disconnect there that I tried to put together, and I think that this actually might be one of the things that is hurting him right now.
Well, Alexi, Mark said his base may not be as durable as we think it is. His base may not even be his base. For the past 3.5 years, we've talked about the upper Midwest and those older white guys in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania that always voted Democratic, that a lot of them even voted for Barack Obama. Well, apparently, if you look at the numbers, he's losing a lot of that support right now and has been for the past several months.
I mean, that's exactly right, Joe. And that's one of the more fascinating trends we're seeing with Joe Biden in this race, is that Joe Biden's base is very much becoming, or including parts of Trump's former base from 2016. And that's in large part because of what Mark's piece captures, because Trump in 2016 sold this faux populist message where he was looking out, he said, for the forgotten little man and little woman, expressing these grievances that people felt really addressed the concerns in their own lives, and they felt seen by someone like Donald Trump, who is running for the highest office in the land. Now we see how those grievances are increasingly personal. They're all about me, me, me. They're all about how the media is against Trump, how Democrats are against Trump, how everything is bad for Trump, but he's not really focusing on those people that he focused on in 2016 and in the same way. And now we're seeing Biden go directly after those voters with a kind of similar populist message that we heard in 2016, this idea that he's looking out for them, that he's from Scranton, this working class place that they're from and they understand. And he says Trump doesn't understand their lives, is from a place like Park Ave and isn't actually looking out for them. And we're seeing how that's really hurting Trump in polling with seniors. We're seeing that with non-college educated white voters. And we're hearing that from the president's own reelection campaign. Advisors to his campaign told Axios recently that they previously thought Wisconsin was in the bag because they thought they could really get those white working class voters. Now they're not feeling so hot about that, and they're looking toward Pennsylvania, hoping that their law and order rhetoric and their tough stance is going to help them with white working class voters there.
Yeah, and Jonathan Lemire, I know you have a question for Kurt Bardella, but before you go to Kurt, talk about how effective that Scranton versus Park Avenue argument has been for Joe Biden. It was very easy for Donald Trump to point to Hillary Clinton as an Ivy League educated 1960s liberal that doesn't understand voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That just doesn't work with Scranton's own Joe Biden. It just, I mean, even when he's saying it, it just doesn't ring true at all.
Right. It's been a failing argument to this point. And as we were discussing earlier, Hillary Clinton had negatives nearly as high as Donald Trump's. Joe Biden doesn't. And more than that, the same block of voters that Trump pulled away from the Democrats in 2016, many of whom sort of white working class men may have voted for Barack Obama, at least in 2008, if not in 2012. Those are the voters, as one person close to the Trump campaign put to me lately, they recognize and understand Joe Biden. Joe Biden's sort of one of them. And that they sort of would feel compelled perhaps to vote for him, and they're not seeing much out of Donald Trump that they still like or recognize from 4 years ago. Kurt, on that topic, the idea of messaging, I went back and looked at some 2016 Trump videos, campaign rallies recently, and it was striking. Despite a lot of the distractions and the nonsense, he was pretty good about hammering certain messages night after night on immigration, on trade, about being against Washington, corruption. What would you say right now is the message of this re-election campaign outside of promising a return to a good economy? It seems to me that he is flailing and struggling and still fighting the last war. Are you seeing anything there that would resonate with these voters we're talking about?
No, and I think your observation, Jonathan, is pretty spot on. When you think about the 2016 campaign, you can pretty much sum it up and drain the swamp, Mexico's going to pay for the wall, and Hillary's emails. And no matter where Trump was, what rally he was doing, who he was talking to, he would always hit those three themes. And now you go to this election right now, and the problem for Donald Trump is because of the coronavirus pandemic and his horrible mismanagement of it and the rising death toll, no matter what he does, no matter how many distractions he throws at the wall, no matter how many times he tries to troll all of us into talking about something else, the reality on the ground for the American people is so very different. There isn't a single person in this country who hasn't been touched by this pandemic in some way, and who in just doing everyday things, going to the grocery store, figuring out how to manage their children and childcare, worrying about their health care, every single day people are reminded of the coronavirus. And Donald Trump has zero message for the pandemic other than these fantasy type of things that it's either going to go away, that there's a miracle cure, that somehow he's now immune to it. All of the things that he says about it are wrong, inaccurate, and completely break from the reality that everyday Americans are experiencing. And I think that's why you're seeing this divide grow now between the reality on the ground, the polling, and what Donald Trump keeps trying to do and say. The fact that they try to recycle the whole Hillary Clinton email thing all over again in the last week just tells you how desperate they are and that Trump doesn't know what to do beyond what he did in 2016.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.